Welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
And we are, of course, talking about the showbread table, and this is what it basically looked like, at least according to the picture that is in the Art Scroll Tabernacle book. This is the showbread table. I have to see if somewhere on my computer I may have the picture that's from this book that I, first of all, that I discovered in the Temple of Aaron synagogue library, and just totally exploded and opened up these particular passages because of the visual images. So basically, in the other book, these three posts, these canes, actually come together at the bottom, and they sort of go at a diagonal, the two outer ones, and then the set here too going up. Let me see. I think I have another. Let's see if I can get that for you. Yep, here we go. Letting you see. These are these plates that they made. Rashi's going to talk about it. That the bread used to lie in. Now this could be the bread itself that they're showing you, and it's called lechem hapanim, right? That is the bread of faces, and these little pieces here are the faces of the bread, and how they lay in top on 6 rows, right? That's what we're seeing: 6 on one side, 6 on the other. So we're going to do this, as they say, on the inside when we actually look at the Rashi itself. This is what we're actually examining right now. Is this structure of the construction of the table. This is without those other pieces that are there. Let me see. Thank you. This is good. All right. So they give you some more details here regarding this and the dimensions that it's giving you. So I'm going to stop this share and go to a new share. Let's go here. Let's try this. Okay, I am going to have to possibly open up to find the actual passage that we were looking at. Sometimes it gets buried in other things. Okay, I'm going to have to stop this share. To make sure I have opened up the other part. Give me a moment, please. Okay, so for some reason, it's not showing. This is interesting. I don't know why this is happening on my computer. Let me see. Okay, there we go. All right. There we go. Good. I think I should be able to do it now. And let's try this now. Yes. And there we are with our text. Forgive me, it took me a few moments to find the text. All right. So yesterday we did this verse. I don't know that we did, yes. So we were talking about komato, its height, and gova raglav, the height of its legs, in ovi hashulchan, with the thickness of a table. Now, I don't know if I can do 2 shares at once. I don't know if I'm capable. No, let's see, it says, no, it won't allow me to share 2 things at a time. So I'd have to stop this share, I believe, and let's just see. Let's see what happens. Yep, so it won't. So remember, we're talking about the Gova HaShulchan, right? That's what we're talking about. So here, this board was placed on top of the legs, and I believe that's what Rashi is talking about. And we'll try to go back to, yeah, I should be able to do this. There we are, back, right? So he says with the thickness of the table. So if you remember the picture you just saw, there was also a part that was a board that was on top of those legs. So he's saying together they make that height. of Amah v'chatzi, a cubit and 1/2. So onwards to the next verse. V'tzipita oto zahav tahor. You should cover it, right, with pure gold. You should put gold, in other words, like you put gold foil over it, or perhaps even a little thicker than foil. But you're going to cover this wood, this acacia wood, with this pure gold. Va'asita lo zer zahav, and you should make it a zer, a wreath, a crown of gold, saviv, all around. Let's take a look at how Rashi explains. So you can see that without the pictures, it's very, very difficult, unless you are gifted at visualizing. And I know there are people who are gifted at visualizing from a written description. This is not one of my strong suits, how helpful it was to see the pictures. So
yeah. Are you sure that's where we were? Because the Rashi we were looking at before is in Sheni, and that might be last year's, because I think that, let me get back to it. I just lost the
by the way. Do you see this?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. But the Rashi that we were looking at just now,
yes,
that I thought we were dealing with yesterday, was, I think, 19.
I thought it was,
wait a second, not 19. It was 17, I thought, when we were talking about the thickness.
No, that would be the thickness of the ark cover.
Yeah, okay, that's what my
yeah, but we finished. This is where we are.
Okay, I don't see anything before that about the thickness, but that's okay.
Right. Yesterday, I remember that we did this komato, its height, and discussed that. All right. So the question is, Rashi says, this crown of gold, siman leketer malchut. This is a sign, okay, of the crown of royalty, Shehashulchan, because the table itself, Shem Osher Ugdula, it connotes wealth and greatness. Kamoshe Omrim, and he says there's a phrase that we use, Shulchan Melachim, the table of kings, which has to do with generosity and abundance and things like that. So this is.
I'm sorry, what chapter are we in?
We are in chapter 28, I believe. I think it's Kafet 28.
28 verse
27.
Okay.
Make sure that I'm correct about. It could be Kaf Hey, could be 25. Yeah, it could. It's more likely 25. Sorry, it's just very hard for me to see if that's a Hey or a Chet. That's the reason. But no, 25. I'll go with 25.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I just don't see that on 25:14.
It would be 25:27.
Oh, 27. Okay. Thanks. I mean, as I have said before, if you could kind of let us know exactly where we are when we start.
Okay. All right. So we're on 25:27, and we're looking at the symbolism of the table, right? Which is the symbolism of royalty. And I thought it was very interesting that when he was saying this, that when Rashi was saying this, is the notion of what does royalty connote, right? Royalty has the connotation of taking care of people. In other words, that it's the welfare of the nation ultimately that the ruling power is responsible for. And I thought that was really lovely. My sense is that the whole concept of kingship, right, which quite possibly originated on a smaller level with tribes, with tribal living, where you had a tribal chief, and essentially what that was about was to protect the group from outside attacks. and the notion and the realization that unless you had an organized group of people to defend yourselves, it wasn't going to work. You weren't going to be effective. And that the reason for the monarchy to begin with was an extension of that notion of protection. So kingship is essentially about protection. And of course, we have external protection through an army, and we have internal protection through laws, through proper government, through a system of justice. Those are two ways that where the ruling power is ultimately responsible to do a decent job. And in that sense, this table, this showbread table, was a symbol of that, of the protection that God gives us. So I just think that there's such a good lesson there in terms of leadership and power and and not to forget that responsibility. That ultimately the welfare of the nation hangs on you. And that's why you're given that kind of power to ensure the welfare of the nation, whether from external dangers or internal dangers. And the whole thing sort of comes together under that rubric. So onto the next verse. But actually, before we go to that, you may be familiar with the statement in Pirkei Avot that there are three crowns. It mentions three crowns. It mentions the crown of the priesthood, the crown of royalty, and I think it's the crown, right, and the crown of knowledge, right, the crown of scholarship, something like that, right? And then it says, but the crown of a good name excels them all. And just to remind you that the first thing we dealt with was the ark that also had a crown, okay? The table of showbread, which is the crown. The ark would represent scholarship, knowledge, etc., like that, right? There's the crown of royalty, which is what we're dealing with in the showbread table. And later on, we will talk about the altar for incense, which would be the crown, I believe, of the priesthood. But then it says, the crown of a good name excels them all. So it's a reference actually to the tabernacle. So going on. V'asita lo miskeret tofach saviv. You shall make for it a frame of a handbreadth around. In other words, the thickness of a handbreadth. V'asita zer zahav lamiskarto. And you should make this crown to the framework. In other words, attach the crown to the framework, saviv, all around it. Now, again, the book that I actually possess makes that very clear. And I'm going to stop this share for a second. Give me a second. And go back to the picture of this. So what it isn't showing you here, what I didn't see in the book, is that this piece here, this square right underneath this is I believe this is the crown that they're talking about, okay? And this top of the table here was actually a masquerade. It was actually open there. It did not have, I think there was something, or excuse me, this was the masquerade underneath here, right? And then here's the crown on top of it. So I think that's how you translate masquerade is an interesting, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger and see if we can read it. Okay, so they're telling you that this is the masquerade. So this is this open piece here. Here we go, look at this, right? And here they're really trying to show you how it fits with the verses, okay? So this height would be a tefach, and the tefach is a handbreadth. So there are different opinions as far as what this actually looked like. But I know that even in the book that I have, there's this board that fits on top of it, right? So he says daf. A daf is a board. So here we're seeing it. Interesting. So they're calling this the misgeret. This would be the flat part, and above this, it's a little bit confusing. It's almost like an Escher picture, it feels like, because it's hard to tell. Okay, and where the zer would be. Okay. Let's see something, if I can go back up. Go to, let's see. All right, let's just go back to the text itself now. I was looking to see if there was another picture that I could use, but that's okay. Going on. Let's see what Rashi has to say here. Misgeret. And he says Ketargumor, okay? It's as the Targum translates it in Aramaic, Gedan Fa. In other words, a rim, an enclosure. V'nechlaku, there we go, Chachmei Yisrael Badavar. And the Rashi mentions that there is a disagreement amongst the sages of Israel. In other words, the early rabbis disagreed regarding this. Yesh omrim lamala haita saviv shulchan. So this is the picture actually that we've got here in the Art Scroll version. There were those who said that it was above the around the table, so it sat on top of the table around. Kemo levaz bezin shebisfat shulchan. So I am sorry that I don't have a ready translation for you here. Let me see if I can find one. One moment, please. Sorry, I believed I was prepared. Here, see what we can do. Forgive me. Okay. And I will give you how he translates it. Okay, forgive me, Svaria translates it as a vertical ledge. Okay, that's what he says, okay? Vertical ledge, shebisfat shulchan sarim, that is on the rim of the tables of nobles. Veyesh omrim, so that's one opinion. Veyesh omrim lamata haita, then others say that it was below haita, tekua meregel leregel, and it was attached from one leg to another leg, ba'arba ruchot, in the four directions, hashulchan, of the table. The daf hashulchan, and the board of the table, that is the tabletop, shochev al oto misgeret, was resting on that frame. So in this other book that I have, that's the way they depict it. And it looks like the Art Scroll is using the first opinion in its representation of what the table looked like. So if and when I can find that picture from the other book, I'll let you take a look at it and you'll be able to see it. So, V'asita zer zahav lemiskato, you shall make a crown of gold to this misgeret, to this frame. And again, so what happened in this other picture is that you see the four legs, you see them connected to each other with this frame. So they're held in place by this frame, right? And then on this frame, there is this crown, and then the tabletop rests inside the enclosure that is made by this frame. That's how they, if you can visualize what I'm telling you. So. Oh, good. All right. Janet, do you want me to let you, okay. Do you want to send me the what you have? And I'll take it. Let me keep going here just so that I can finish the
I already
Thank you,
sent
Roger.
it to you.
Okay, so all right, I didn't see it in the pictures you sent me. Let me look. I have basically 4 or 5 pictures. Okay, oh, I see what you're saying. All right, let me see what I can do here. Hold on a second. Okay, and let me see if I can find it now. So it's interesting what the experience that I'm having with let's try this now. Here we are. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. I'm having, okay, good. I see it now. And I may be able to, I'm going to go back. I'm going to stop the share and I'm going to see if I can find it here. I think this is what Janet's talking about. Okay, so what you don't see is how this is simply a frame. Okay? And how see how the crown goes around this and the tabletop fits. Now, if you look carefully, I'm going to open this up for you. You can see how this is a frame. Although in this case, I don't know why we have this little corner here, because I think it would simply fit on top of the 4 legs. But again, you start to get into the details, and then this is the tabletop. This is the daf that fits inside there. So this is the other. Thank you, Janet, for reminding me that you'd sent me this picture as well. So, okay. I'm going into all that kind of detail because it's so hard to visualize all this. And I'm trying to make sure that you can. Okay.
Yeah, we need to consult with Rabbi IKEA.
Yes, it looks like it, doesn't it? Okay. Here we go. I don't think we did this. Va'asita zerzalim miskator. Right. So he says this new mention of a crown, Rashi clarifies, isn't a new crown. Who's zer ha'amur lamala? That is the crown that was mentioned in that previous verse. Upiresh lechakan. And here scripture explains to you, she'al hamiskeret haita, that this was on top of the miskeret, that this went above. The point is, al here, I believe, means not on top of, but above. It went above the miskeret, this frame. And that's exactly what we're seeing in the picture. So we're going to stop here. And give me one moment to take this. Yeah, okay. And put it in, see if I can get it inside here. All right, and put that here. Ooh, sorry about that. And we'll start here tomorrow. I know we're going very slowly on this, and I'm going to stop the share. And here we go. And give you a chance if you'd like to comment at all.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Arlen.
My question is the bread on that table. Why 12 loaves? 6 loaves on one side, 6 on the other.
Right. So you understand what the connection is with 12. When you think of the number 12, what do you think of? In the Bible, at any rate.
Tribes.
12 tribes.
Okay, and we want to go beyond that. And again, why 12 tribes?
They were
What?
in various encampments around the Mishkan.
Okay, so that is the way they were organized. But again, the number 12, of course, is the 12 signs of the Zodiac.
Oh.
And what this is trying to do is to link what is going on here on a universal kind of level. To say that there is universal significance to what's going on here. And that the 12 tribes in that sense represent the 12 signs of the Zodiac, which is the 12 months of the year, which is how we get 12 months of the year, that connection. So that's, you want to take these numbers and sort of combine them together. Yes.
Rabbi, so you're saying that the 12 tribes is connected to the 12
months of the zodiac? Or 12?
Yes, the 12 signs of the zodiac. Not, I haven't ever thought to myself, okay, whether or not the specific signs of the zodiac are connected to some of the animals mentioned with the tribes, because the tribes are symbolized, like in Jacob's blessing, he compares. So I don't believe I have seen any connection. I haven't come across it yet in my studies, a direct connection between those 12 signs and the 12 tribes.
So what was the connection that you were making?
Say that again.
What was the connection that you just made?
Just the fact that there is a way to universalize, to say that what's going on, it's a basic mystical concept, which is to say that what goes on here in this world is reflected in the universe.
So it's a paradox.
Microcosm, that we're a
It's a
microcosm.
paradox of tribalism and universalism.
Is it
Right.
connected?
Okay, so would that be, I mean, are you talking about like Kabbalah or something? Or, I mean,
Yeah,
where does Zodiac come into the, I mean, honestly, I've never heard that Zodiac was connected with Judaism at all.
Well, let me give you a couple of examples.
Mazel tov.
Exactly. Okay, so first of all, according to the Bible itself, who's the first Jew according to the Torah?
Abraham.
Yes. And where does he come from?
Forgot the name.
Ur.
From Ur of the Chaldees. He comes from Babylonia. And what are the Babylonians very, very noted for? Astrology. And in order to do their astrology, they needed to study astronomy. And they're the ones who came up with the 60 minutes, the sexagesimal system, which we have today in 60 seconds and 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute. That's all from Babylonia originally, okay? And including the signs of the zodiac. That's all Babylonian stuff, which shows a certain, legitimacy, if you want to call it, in the fact that that's where Abraham comes from. He comes from Babylonia. Okay. And then there's
So Mazel Tov also means, like basically may the stars be with you.
Yeah, it
may
does.
you have good stars.
True. Or that you'd be born
That's
under
why I wasn't being flip when I said Mazel Tov. I was referring to the cosmology in Judaism.
Right. Let me go a little bit more specific. When is Pesach? What month of the year?
Nisan.
And what season is that?
Spring.
And what's the sign of the zodiac in springtime?
Oh, that's right.
The ram.
Is it?
Is it? Well, I'm in Aries.
Aries
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. And what do we sacrifice in?
and Taurus is there also.
Okay. Yeah, but the point is that it's the time of the year when we're talking about sacrificing the lamb. Okay.
Ida?
Okay. So that's number one. The celebration of Rosh Hashanah is when?
Fall.
In the fall. Okay. And what is the basic issue of what goes on at Rosh Hashanah according to our tradition? The world is
Born.
judged.
Oh.
All judged at that time. What's the astronomical sign at that time?
Libra.
And what's Libra?
Scales.
Scales.
And what's justice? Scales of justice.
Mm-hmm.
So there's these connections with these holidays, with at least these two for sure at the time. So yes, there is a connection. We do say Lo Mazal Yisrael, by the way. So there, incidentally, one thing we don't necessarily appreciate is that, like out in India and China and those areas, they take that stuff very, very seriously. We don't in Western culture, but in Eastern cultures, they take that stuff seriously. And I suspect that there's a combination, where Jerusalem is like, they said it was like the navel of the universe. And so there are influences both from West and East within our culture. And on the other hand, we say Ein Mazal Yisrael, which means, we aren't influenced by the stars, quote, quote, in that sense, because of our connection with God. that to whatever extent one has a connection with the divine, you can avoid being, having your fate sealed. And by the way, of course, the sense of Greek tragedy, right? If you look at, I think it's Ulysses, okay, that there's a sense that you're basically governed. The way the Greeks put it is by the gods, that they basically control your life. That is it Ulysses, if I'm correct? Maybe I'm
I'm
wrong.
not sure what you're asking specifically
Okay,
about.
so
but
I'm
all
saying
Greek-
specifically, who is, sorry, it's not Oedipus. I'm thinking of Oedipus, forgive me, not Ulysses. Oedipus. Oedipus is fated that he is going to kill his father and sleep with his mother. That is not under Oedipus's control. It's going to happen. And that's the sense of Greek tragedy. Greek tragedy is, and I learned this from Professor Hanan Brichta, that in some ways you can define Greek tragedy as what is tragic is that we don't have control of what ultimately happens to us. What's biblical tragedy? Well, biblical tragedy you find very early on in Genesis when Cain kills Abel. And basically the Torah says right there, while it's very strong, you can control it. It says you can master it. So what's tragedy in Jewish or in biblical sense? Tragedy is the fact that we are capable of controlling our lives and choose not to. That's the tragedy for human beings. It's an interesting thing. So we know we are very much influenced by external influences. And internal influences, right? So you hear me talking constantly, right, of controlling our impulses. And those impulses are very, very strong. And it's a battle. So, okay, little bit of what
One more question.
Okay, I think we're out of time, actually, Harlan.
Oh, way.
We really are going to have to stop. Okay,
Okay,
thanks. Can you save your question for tomorrow? Take care.
I will.
Thanks, everyone.